Hello, this channel is called Sane in the Asylum, but it started as a Facebook blog page where I documented my recovery process from an attempted suicide. So today I'm going to do a little bit of introduction because it's come to my attention that I haven't done that at all. But first I'm going to talk about the tea I'm drinking, and I'm drinking Organic Green Kick, and I'm always drinking tea. And this is a Sencha and matcha blend. And I got a new coffee mug, which I bought at my local Dollar General for 1 penny because it was not part of their seasonal merchandise and they forgot to pull it. And I can't believe that I originally passed it up a few different times because it had this pink part, and I'm not crazy about the color pink. But I got it for 1 penny, and that's nice. So today, I'm going to do 10 things about me as sort of an introduction to this channel, and a way for you to sort of take in and understand some of the things that I'm probably going to be talking about. So number one is the most obvious one. I am a suicide attempt survivor. And I attempted suicide by drinking a bottle of ZzzQuil 2 years ago. And there was no immediate medical intervention. So I just kind of had to go through the process alone of recovery, and I remember being very sick for a period of time. And in hindsight, I really regret not having that immediate medical intervention, because I recognize now that I probably, or maybe I wouldn't have, but perhaps it would have made the recovery process a little bit easier, especially mental health wise, because my mental health suffered significantly after that attempt, as I'm sure it would for anybody. And I believe probably that there are likely a lot of attempt survivors that did not have medical intervention. Because when you survive something like that, it becomes a very shameful thing. And the shame is definitely compounded when you do survive it. And maybe you don't think anybody will believe you, or maybe you're grateful that you lived and you don't want to have to deal with any repercussions from it. Or maybe you are dealing with it and you're just hiding it. Well, whatever it is, I believe that we do have a lot greater of a percentage of people who have attempted and never ended up in a hospital or never had any intervention. So if that's you, if that's your story, I would like to hear from you. Number two, my mother was a prostitute. Which she wasn't originally a prostitute. She was promiscuous and she struggled with her own mental health issues. But as I got older, she did go into prostitution. And I don't know if it was for money or for whatever reason it was. I just know that that's what happened. And I don't have any particular opinions about it, but I will tell you my story from my perspective, things that happened to me. And it's not a judgment that I'm passing. It's just what happened. Number three, I'm a high school dropout. I dropped out when I was 18 years old, though I quit going to high school a few months before I turned 18. So I was still 17, and I was technically truant for like 2 months before I dropped out officially. Number four, I'm in an age gap relationship. I have a 13-year age gap with my partner. And I got into that relationship when I was 18, and I've been in the same relationship ever since. Number five, I recently got into therapy. So after my attempt and the initial failure that I had at getting help, which is a whole different story, I was very reluctant to receive professional help from that point forward. So it was a 2-year period of recovery, not just physically and like spiritually, but like a workup to being able to put that kind of trust into somebody again when I was in such a fragile state. So I'm glad that I finally have worked up to that, and hopefully it will benefit me. And if not, you'll know about it. Okay, number six. I don't really know who my father is. And though I've been introduced to men here and there throughout my life that were supposedly my father, there is one strong contender. But even then, I've had closer relationships with friends' parents and former teachers than I ever have any father figure, so it doesn't really matter that much. And to go along with that, number 7 is I don't really know how many siblings I have. Because if you don't know who your father really is, you don't really know how many siblings you have either. Number 8, I thought I was the oldest. I thought I was my mother's oldest child until I was in the 4th grade, when she introduced me to my older brother, who was her child that she just never talked about. And I remember when I met my older brother, I was so ecstatic because we had so many things in common. And we even looked alike. But I remember I went out of town to go and stay the night or like a weekend with him and his grandfather. And I was so shocked to find out that he had this pristine collection of Goosebumps books on his bookshelf behind his bed. And when I pulled one out, I could see this little sticker that had the reading level labeled on it. And it immediately told me that this was a classroom library book. And I pulled them all out one by one, all of them classroom library books. So he had wiped out an entire classroom library through stealing. And I remember when I saw that and discovered that and we started talking about it, we had that in common. That was something that even though we'd been raised separately, and even though I had been sort of raised by non-relative caregivers as well, we were both stealing books. Which I know isn't good. Stealing from a classroom library, it's bad. But when that's your form of escapism from your childhood, securing one of those books is like securing an escape for a period of time. And that's what it was for me. And when I met this brother, this long-lost brother that I didn't know, when I saw that we had that in common, I felt so happy and so ecstatic, and I felt so connected. Okay, number 9, though throughout my childhood I faced chronic homelessness, just like on my own by myself, I also lived in a homeless shelter for a period of time with my mother and my siblings. Although, I'll probably do a story about that at some other time. And number 10, though I never ended up in the system, I was never in foster care, I never ended up in any kind of placements, I was, throughout my entire childhood, largely raised by non-relative caregivers. So, not mom, not dad, not a grandma, not somebody like that. It was just a complete stranger that I was largely raised by. Okay, so thank you for watching this video, and hopefully this will give you some insight into who I am and the things that I'm going to talk about and things we might have in common. Bye.